I'm Cher with another episode of Connection Over Content. This episode has to do with assumption and presumption and how we often won't hear what the other person's saying from where they're coming from because of our presumptions and our assumptions. So I was taught this great little game, and it's a simple question. Whenever somebody meets you for the first time, what do you assume they're going to think of you? Now, this might take you a minute to think about, but sometime during the day today, even if you want to pause this video now, just sit back and think about what you have always assumed or presumed others think about you, just in you introducing yourself. For instance, I often think that people will think of me as somebody who thinks they're pious or above others or have some kind of spiritual knowledge because I am usually introduced as Rev Cher, Reverend Cher Schwangler. And when you put a title in front of your name, you assume people will think certain things about you. And I took a piece of paper and wrote down all of my assumptions about what I thought people would think about me. And it turned out those were really my own assumptions about what I would think about myself or others. And based on what I already knew about myself and what I knew about what most other people in my mind told me would think about what I'm saying because I am introduced as Rev Cher. If you take the Rev away, I still have assumptions of what people are going to think about me because of maybe how I'm dressed or whether or not I have makeup on or my hair done or the way I speak, the way I hold myself, or just how I already believe myself to be. And so I always like to introduce people to this part of the process by having them look at their own ways that they think people make assumptions about them in meeting them before we go and look at how we're making assumptions about the other. So once we have a good idea of how we presume others will see us or think about us, even if it's generalized, now we have a clearer understanding of what it might feel like for the person that we're talking to know that we're making preconceived assumptions about them. So, how does this connect to welcome everything and being present and leaning in and really listening? How does this help us in our relating and keeping our connection, the most important part of our communication, more important than the content? So if you're listening to your mate, your business partner, your friend, somebody in a group session that's talking, it's really, really good and helpful for you to take a little notice of how you already register them. Pardon me, my nose is itching. How you already register them in your thinking process. What position, what character do you hold them as? For instance, do you have a work colleague who you say is always late? Oh, I know they're not going to show up. They're always late. Or when you see them and they were late to the last meeting, do you just sit there thinking about how they're always late in some capacity or another? And how maybe you like to be on time, so your assumption of them about being late is tied into how you think you need to be on time. So if we can make a list, even if it's a short mental list of how we're already presuming or assuming somebody else to be, then this is going to color our conversation. It's going to get in the way of our authentic connection. And it's going to be inauthentic because it's a connection based off of presumption and assumption. And you can argue with me and say, oh, but I know this person. They are always late. Okay, they're always late. But that doesn't mean you know the person. You know one of their habits, and you don't know why they have that habit, generally speaking. Because I like to think that if you actually knew why they had that habit, you would have compassion for their tardiness or their belief system and not presume that that's all they are, right? So if we take somebody's character and we list their biggest character flaws as who they are, and every time we have a conversation with them, we're seeing them through that lens of assumption and presumption, you're not connecting to them. You're connecting to your own content about them. And now, this can be really challenging. So I always tell people that this part is really a work in progress for us. And that's why I always say start with your own listing of how you think people assume and presume you are. And that will be your own assumptions about how others see you, you see. So when you get to really looking at the people in front of you and you see that you are seeing them through a screen of assumptions, you might be able to take that down a bit and put the assumptions aside and lean into what they're saying. Forget that they were late. Listen to the cadence. How fast are they speaking? Is there stress behind their words? What are they really saying? That's important. And it's the next video for this. Can you really tell the person what they just said? Will you know? Or will you be thinking about your own content, what you want out of them, what you want out of the conversation, and are you thinking about your presumptions of them and how they're going to react to your conversation? So please understand that I know that these are not simple. I mean, they're simple, but they're not easy to put into practice right away. And I have a video coming up on creating a practice buddy, which is really helpful. So this is watch your assumptions, list them, see what they are. How are you assuming the other, the situation, or your own thoughts are going to go? And can you release the grip on the assumptions and lean into what's actually happening with wise understanding? Because if you can, wise speech will follow. So pay attention, drop your assumptions, welcome everything. And I hope you tune in to the next installment, which is about listening.